Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I just thought I would film a little Disneyland Paris tips video for you today. It might help some of you out. We've been quite a few times in the last nearly 3 years now. So like, I don't want to say we know it all. We don't know it all, but you know, we know quite a lot. But yeah, so it might help you. But if you haven't been on our channel before, my name is Michelle and I'm not normally here on my own. I'm usually here with my daughter Ava. She might appear later on in the video with some of her kids tips, okay? So check that out later on. Maybe some of the younger people that are watching this might want to see her later. I'm just going to go through everything that you might need to know, that might need help. Please don't take my word for everything. Obviously, what I'm saying is right at the time of filming this. It's June 2023, so you know, things obviously can change, so double check things. I might have got things wrong, or something that would be right for us might not be right for you, so just please don't take my word for anything. But yeah, let's get on with it. So first of all, we're going to start right at the beginning with the booking. The first thing obviously you need to do if you want to go to Disneyland Paris is book it. So before you book, you obviously need to decide what you want to do, where you want to stay, on site or off site. It's different for everybody, obviously, what you prefer. It's always nice to stay on site, but it depends on the cost. One thing just to think about though is that, you know, staying off site, the hotel might be cheaper, but by the time you add those tickets on, the tickets are quite expensive. Sometimes it can work out just as well or better to stay on site because the tickets are included. Okay, when you book a package on the Disneyland Paris website, you will get your ticket. So sometimes it's better to do that, and you know, you're on site, so it's quite nice. It's easier to get to and from the parks. We stayed on site on our first trip and did it like that. We stay off site now just because we have our annual passes, so we don't need to get the ticket. So obviously that makes it cheaper for us now to stay off site. But I did have a little look a couple of weeks ago, pricing up just a 2-night trip for me and Ava, just to get an idea really. And even staying on in a really cheap hotel, it still worked out better for us to stay on site. Now, if you're gonna go like one night early or stay an extra night and not go in the parks for some of the days, that might not be the case. So you just need to research it. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Research and research. Get prices for both. Obviously, you might be dead set on staying on site. So as soon as those prices come out, the next thing I was going to say is book early. The earlier you book, I think at the minute, I haven't really seen that there's been any deals like late last minute. So especially on Disneyland Paris, they don't really do deals at all at the moment. So yeah, obviously the more people that book, the more those prices will go up. So just book as early as you can. In terms of where to book the hotel, I have used, so we did a Disneyland Paris package for the first trip. So I have used the Disneyland Paris website. I've also used booking.com, Expedia and Love Holidays. I did a package with Love Holidays, not the tickets, but it was just the hotel, the flights and the transfer. Not the transfer, sorry, the airport parking. And I paid for it over a year. I paid for it monthly, so that's quite a good idea as well. I've used Love Holidays quite a lot now. Even without a package, I've just booked the hotel. In fact, I've used them for our next trip. But yeah, just have a look at all the different prices. The off-site hotels, obviously if you do it on booking.com, usually those prices are out a year before, so have a look, because obviously you can book it normally and then just cancel it whenever you need to. The times I have booked hotels, cancelled it, rebooked it because the price has changed or it's been cheaper somewhere else. Also double check the actual website for the hotel that you're looking at, because sometimes it is cheaper on there. When we stayed at, it was called the Magic Circus at the time, now called Grand Magic. When we stayed there for Ava's birthday, I actually cancelled it on booking.com because it was cheaper to book it through the hotel themselves. So always check that as well. Also, if you do have a booking through booking.com or any of them, the offsite hotels do also normally say cancel whenever and pay on arrival. It's exactly the same, which is why we did it like that. But obviously always check. I'm always checking the hotels right up until the trip, just in case that price does change, so you could cancel it and rebook it, even if it's on the same website. So just always keep a check on it just in case. And if you're looking at staying off-site, even on-site I guess, but off-site I would say particularly, and you're struggling to choose which hotel, I always think it depends, one, how long you're going to be there for, and two, what time of year. So if we're going for a really short trip, then we want to spend all our time in the parks. So if we're in the parks all the time, all we need at the hotel is obviously a safe place, somewhere to sleep. We don't need really any more amenities. You know, we don't need a swimming pool because we're not going to have time to use it, and you usually do pay extra for a hotel like that. But if we're going in the summer for a longer trip and it's going to be hot, the parks are open a lot later as well. So you do then have time to go in the parks in the morning, go back to your hotel, get in the pool, have a freshen up, and then go back out in the evening. So I found that works for us. Our next trip, we're going for 6 nights and 6 days. So it was really important to me because it's going to be summer that Ava would want a swimming pool. So I made sure we booked one with a swimming pool. But when we've gone in winter and maybe a shorter trip, I'm not worried about it because I know we're not going to have much time to use it, or, you know, we're just going to want to be in the parks all the time, because then in the winter the parks do shut earlier. So that's something to think about. Also, whether you want to have a free breakfast included, because that does help with money side of things. When we've had our breakfast included in our hotel, we've normally fill up on breakfast, and then we don't normally need to have any lunch. Obviously we still want to get some Disney snacks while we're in the parks, but we'll just have then dinner. So it saves money because you don't need to pay for 3 meals in a day. Some of the hotels obviously don't have that, or it might not be as good. I'm going to do another video after our next trip because we've got one more hotel that we're staying in off-site. So once we've done that, I'm going to film another video about all the off-site hotels that we've stayed in, and we're going to kind of rank them and that, I think. So you can get an idea about what they're all like, and also might help you choose one as well, but that won't be coming for a while. So if you're going soon, that won't help right now, but hopefully in the future it will. And then if you are going to stay off site, you will obviously need to book, unless you've booked it on some website where you have included your park tickets, you're obviously going to need to book your park tickets as well. Make sure you do this before you go. Book in advance. You can no longer get tickets on the gate like you used to unless you're getting disabled tickets or military tickets. But if you are getting disabled tickets, I think that is only for the disabled person and the carer. So then if there's any other people in your party, you need to make sure you get them before. Majority of the time now at the moment, the parks are full. So if you turned up, and I mean, you're not supposed to buy them on the gate anyway, but if you turned up and then you can't even buy them online, yeah, we did actually, when we were there for New Year, we were in the queue for our hotel reception, and the people in front of us were just checking in for the next 3 nights, and they asked how to get park tickets, and she said you need to order them online. And when they looked, there was nothing left because, like I say, it was so busy that week. It was full, and then I mean, I don't know what they did. They wouldn't have been able to go to the parks for the whole of their trip because the next 3 days was full. I don't know if they found some way around it or what they did, but yeah, that would be really disappointing, but also I feel like they should have maybe done their research a little bit more. It sounded like they had been before because they said, oh, it wasn't like this last time, but obviously since COVID, things have changed everywhere, and most places now you do need to book in advance. So yeah, just make sure you do that, because you don't want to be like those people and then not go all that way, be there and not even be able to go in the park. So that'd be really sad. And then on to your travel options. Obviously there's quite a few different ways you can get to France. So you could drive and use either the ferry or it's now called the Eurotunnel. It's now called Le Shuttle. You can do that. If you use the Le Shuttle, you can actually use Tesco Club Card vouchers as well, which is really handy if you have quite a few of those. I won't go too much detail into that though, because we never use that option. I don't ever fancy driving it. I quite like going on holiday and not having my car, because then I feel like I'm on holiday. Or you can obviously use the Eurostar, or you can fly. The very first time we went, we did the direct Eurostar. It was indirect coming home. But the direct Eurostar is now no longer in service. They are saying that they're going to look at it again next year. Whether it will come back then or not, I don't know. I don't think it will be anytime too soon anyway. But you can still put Disneyland Paris in the website. You just have to change at Lille, which a lot of people have done before anyway, because that was always an option to go indirect and, you know, coming back as well. Or you can go to Paris, Gare du Nord, and then get the RER train from there to Disney, which is very cheap. It is very easy. I have done a video on that before, because that is my favourite way to go. That is what we have done most of the time. In our last video, I did talk about, I went just to Lille and then I got my own train from Lille to Disney. If you're a bit nervous, I probably wouldn't recommend that, because it could have gone a bit wrong if I'd have missed trains and not made it back for the Eurostar. But it was cheaper at the time and it all worked out fine. So, but next time we're going to Gare du Nord again. We have also flown quite a few times. The reason that I'm not at the moment is just because the flights have really gone up. Since things have gone back to normal after COVID, the flights for us have been more expensive than the Eurostar. But obviously it all depends on your family setup. If there's more of you, there's only me and Ava, who's now 9. If there's a family of 6 of you, you might find it cheaper and easier to drive. If you live in the north of England, then you might find it easier to fly because you're nowhere near London, whereas we're only an hour from London, so it's not too bad for us. We can drive somewhere and leave the car for the week, or we can just get a train. So it's quite easy for us, but obviously it's not for everyone. Yeah, so my preferred method at the moment is Eurostar. We really like it. I find it quite chilled. It's always very quiet on the Eurostar. I mean, I always feel like we have to whisper when we're on there. But yeah, it's really good, and you can take quite a lot of luggage. They say for an adult it's two large suitcases and a cabin case and a handbag. So that's a lot of luggage per person. For a child, it's 1 large suitcase, a cabin case and a bag. So that's a lot just for 2 people, you know, that's a lot of luggage. I don't think you would ever need that much. And I also think if you did take more, like an extra bag, they wouldn't notice, because there's no point where they really check it. I also really like it because, unlike the airport where you obviously have to do everything quite separate and spread out, you just walk through, scan your ticket. You do, in London, you do security first, and then you do passport control for Britain and then passport control for France. When we come back from Paris Gare du Nord, the security is always after that, so sometimes that changes. But you just do it all in one go, and then that's it, and then you can sit down and wait, and then once your Eurostar is ready to board, you just go and get on. And yeah, simple. And then when you get off the other end, you just walk off and off you go, because it's all done and you've obviously got your luggage with you. So yeah, really easy. But flying is fine too. Obviously you just now normally, we used to fly with EasyJet, so you do now have to pay for an extra cabin case. That was what makes it much more expensive for us now as well, having to add that on. And also the transfer for us from Paris to Disney, or wherever we're off to, is cheaper than getting any transport from the airport to Disney or our hotel. So you've booked your Disneyland Paris holiday, you've got your travel booked, your hotel and anything else you need to do. So the next thing I think is really good to do is download the Disneyland Paris app. I might put a little picture of it just here somewhere, because I notice in some Facebook groups people ask which one. I think it is because the Disneyland app for Disneyland California, but it does say Disneyland Paris. So if you put Disneyland Paris in your app search, whichever type of phone you have, then that should come up at the top. It's really good just to, get used to it before you go as well, because when you're there you can use it for wait times. I do also use another app that I know a lot of people use I think it's called Magic App. I'll put a picture of that as well. It just lists the queue times for the rides much better. I just find it easier to look at, so that's quite handy just for rides. But the Disneyland Paris app, you can see all the restaurants on there, all the food, and you can look at the menus. I quite like to budget the trip. I go through what I think we might want to eat at, especially if we've booked something, booked a restaurant you know, then I know really what that's going to cost, so I can put it all down. You can look at the bar menus, you can look on the map at the location of things and sort of get your bearings a little bit. There's everything on there, all the characters that might be available to me. Obviously things can change. The schedule is on there as well, but the schedule doesn't usually update until that month. So I'm filming this in June, we're going in July, so July doesn't have any schedule yet, but on the 1st of July they usually do the whole of July. So then I should be able to look at the days that we're there and see the schedule. It doesn't usually change that much, to be honest, so you can look now and it will probably be the same, but always make sure that you check on the day as well, because sometimes things can change, or because it is a live app, sometimes it updates it on the day. So just always double check. If you want to watch, you know, if it's really important for you to watch a certain show, just double check it that day. Also, when you go to the shows or go to character meets, it does sometimes have the times outside as well. So going back to restaurants, if you do want to book a sit down restaurant or a buffet restaurant, you can book it. If you stay on site, it says you can book up to 12 months in advance. Now, big emphasis on up to, because that doesn't mean if you book now for a year's time, it doesn't mean that you'll definitely be able to book any restaurant, sorry, for then. I'll just keep checking. When you log onto the app, if you've logged in with your booking, then it should take you straight to your dates. And then some some restaurants get released and not others. Sometimes they don't know what time the park is going to close that day yet, so they'll wait to see, you know, whether the restaurant's even going to be open in the evening. So you just have to keep checking it. For those of you that aren't staying on site, you can book 60 days out. Always managed to get the restaurants that I've wanted. I don't book loads though. I usually book, as soon as I wake up, I check on the day that day opens, and it's usually worked. I know the harder bookings are the character dining. Now someone did ask me to talk about character dining in this video, so I'll do that now. So the character dining that you can book is in Plaza Gardens. You can book breakfast or dinner there. That's a buffet restaurant. If you book lunch, you won't get characters. Okay, so it's got to be breakfast or dinner. The dinner is more likely, at the moment anyway, to be your normal Mickey, Minnie, Pluto, Goofy. So if you want those sort of characters, dinner is probably best. And then the breakfast is usually kind of, I think you might still get Pluto. It tends to be Geppetto and Pinocchio, Tigger, some of the Winnie Pooh characters, Hook and Smee, I think, are quite, so some different characters. So if you're wanting to get the normal characters, go in the evening. We want to book breakfast next time just because we haven't done that yet, and it's some different characters to meet because we've done the others. But yeah, and then you've also got Auberge de Cendrillon. Hopefully I've said that right. It's a Cinderella restaurant, and that's the princess dining. Whatever time you book that, you will get princesses. They've just started doing a breakfast again, so you can now do breakfast, lunch or dinner there. It's a sit down meal, that one. The breakfast looks really good actually. I'm quite like thinking maybe we should have done that, but we're going to stick with what we've booked, but maybe another time we will do the princess one. But yeah, the lunch and dinner menu is the same. That is probably one of the hardest bookings to get. I somehow got lucky and managed to book it the day our 60 days went out. This was a year ago now, last summer. But I know people do struggle with that. There is a website called DLP Tables. I haven't used it yet because I haven't needed to, but I know some people have used that, and then that alerts you when tables become available. But if you don't get a table, just keep checking. And I've even noticed closer to the time or on the day, sometimes you can get a table, or if you haven't managed to book one on the app, then just go into the restaurant and ask. I mean, the worst that can happen is they say no, but I think sometimes they have availability. So it's always worth asking. And if you're staying on site, go and ask your concierge at the hotel, because they'll probably help you and might be able to book it for you. And we will also do another video at some point, again probably after our next trip now, about our favourite table service, quick service and buffet restaurants and snacks and everything. We do eat at quick services quite a lot, just because they're cheaper, they're easier. Ava's quite fussy, so sometimes I get something from one place and we get her chicken nuggets, the usual chicken nuggets from somewhere else. So, but yeah, just check the menus so then you can see what they do, how much it is, and yeah, you can figure out what you want to eat when you're there. But if you do have fussy eaters, then I think normally the quick service places and the buffets are good. Ava loves a buffet because she can just go and get what she wants. It's usually all beige food. Actually, she does like her fruit and veg, so there is usually some veg and salady bits in there as well. But yeah, they can just get what they want then, and you know, when you're on a holiday, you don't really worry too much about what they're eating as long as they're eating something. The Disneyland Paris app, you can look at all the rides. It will give you the height restrictions for the rides as well, so you can see, you know, what rides your child can go on. I think one of the things a lot of people that haven't been before think that if they've got small children they won't go on much, but actually that's not the case at Disneyland Paris. There's a lot of rides that have no height restriction. There's only a few really that do. There's only a few big rides. It's not a place where there's like big scary rides really. There's only a couple of those. So there's actually quite a lot that little ones can go on. But yeah, you can have a look, see the description, see where they are, and see the height restriction. When you're there as well for the rides, I usually find, now this isn't always the case, so again, don't take my word for it. If you get extra magic time, then try and use that. So that's if you're staying on site or if you have the top 2 annual passes at the moment. That could change very soon because the new annual passes are coming. Then you get a whole hour in the parks before everyone else. So usually that is 8:30 to 9:30. Again, that can change. Yeah, so we're not very good at getting there for 8:30. We're going to try it again next time. Because we don't have breakfast in our hotel, so I think that is going to be a big like game changer for us, and it's going to be hot, so I think we need to get up and get in, go back in the middle of the day. Well, I mean, I'm assuming it'll be hot because it's July, but yeah, so if you have extra magic time, try and use that, especially if you don't have too much time in the parks, because that's when the rides will be quieter. Even if you don't have extra magic time or you don't make it for 8:30, then even from 9:30, the rides are still a little bit quieter, I would say. Start getting busier by midday. Also, they then, especially when the parks are open late, like at the moment 11 o'clock, all through the summer, it's been 11 o'clock for the last couple of years. The ride times do drop in the evening. Even on really busy days, I've seen it. I'm really bad at sitting at home and just looking at what the queue times are, and they always seem to drop around dinner time, so that's really good. Obviously you sometimes get rides that don't. The only time this didn't happen for us was when we went for New Year, so the first week of January was probably the busiest I've ever seen it, and the park closed at 10 and I was waiting for the rides to get quieter and they actually didn't. I mean, you still get your usual rides, Phantom Manor, Pirates of the Caribbean, Small World, now it's back open. What else? And then so a lot of the rides in the studios will drop down quite low. There's quite a few rides like that I will never queue even 30 minutes for, because I know that at some point there'll be 5-10 minutes, you know, in the evening, or at some point. Star Tours, that's another one that drops, because I think it's because they're high loading and they can get more people on and quickly, or like Pirates, it keeps moving. So yeah, but yeah, evening is really good. So morning and evening. Obviously, like I say, if it is really, really busy sometimes, and I think also, even though it's only an hour earlier, I think just closing at 10 made that difference. Maybe closing at 11, I don't know, seems to make quite a big difference. If you go on rides at like 10:30, I mean, not all the rides are open at that time, most of them, not any in Fantasyland, but you usually find they're like 5 minutes, which is probably a walk on. So that's a really good time to do the rides. Like in the middle of the day, if they're really busy, just have a break from the rides, do a show, have some chill time, you know, do the other things in the park, then yeah, and do the rides. a bit later. Also with the rides, something that me and Ava actually do is use single rider. So if the queue is a bit too long to queue in the normal queue, if you are 7 or over, you can use the single rider queue. So obviously if you're an adult, then that's absolutely fine. But even Ava now, you know, I'm usually in the same queue, and we sometimes end up on the same ride sitting next to each other anyway. But it's quite a good way just to get through the queue quicker, particularly something like Ratatouille and Parachute Drop. Because they have 3 seats on the ride, it's quite often that they'll just have 2 people and then another person, a single rider person can sit next to them. So those ones we usually walk on Ratatouille and maybe have a 5-10 minute wait for Parachute Drop. If your children are old enough and, you know, or you don't have children, then that's always a good option as well. Like I say, you might even end up still on the ride together, but you both get to enjoy it. Sometimes I think it might be nice to maybe do it the first time in the normal queue. We haven't done single rider yet for Spider-Man Web Adventure, because obviously that's a fun one, so we kind of would rather do that together. But maybe on one trip, if we've already done it once and we want to do it a second time, we might do that. Again, I have seen that people have ended up on the same ride together when they've done that as well. Also, another thing, if you don't want to queue for the ride, there's no longer free fast passes in any of the Disney parks. So if you want, you can pay though to skip the queue. It's called Premier Access, and you have the option to either buy one pass for the whole day for all the rides that are included. For us it wouldn't be worth it, because there'd be some rides that Ava wouldn't go on, some rides that I know would have a short queue time. But obviously if you're there for one day, it's really busy, you know, or even if you're there for only a couple of days and to you it's worth it, then go for it. It's quite expensive. Or you can pay for individual rides as well. We still have never used it. We've never felt the need to. I think the one ride that I would use it on is Big Thunder Mountain, if it was always a long queue. I think I did think about it on my last trip, but then I didn't in the end. But I think I would use it for that if I did. The prices vary depending on the ride, but again, it's all in the app, so you can just check it out on there. Also, don't forget about, I know like when people go, because it's a theme park, I think a lot of the emphasis is on making sure you do all the rides, get all the rides done. And the rides are amazing, so definitely still do the rides that you want to do, obviously. But just don't forget that there's more to Disney parks than the rides. The shows are amazing, so see as many shows as you can. That also gives you a chance to have a sit down. If it's hot, you get out of the sun for a bit. If it's cold, you get in the warm for a bit. And like I say, they're so good. There's quite a few shows now, and there's a new one coming out very soon, which we're excited to see, a Pixar one called Together in studios. So there's always new things. Also just enjoying what is around, because the parks are so pretty, particularly in Disneyland Paris and Disneyland Park. So just taking in everything, all the little details. There's also like little walk-through attractions, like the Aladdin walk-through, or walking through the castle, or seeing the dragon under the castle, little things like that. And one of the big shows at the moment, so if you're watching this after the 30th of September 2023, then this won't apply, but one of the biggest show, and I think the best show I've ever seen, is Dream and Shine Brighter. It is just so good. Minnie here is in her Dream and Shine Brighter outfit. Yeah, if you're going to go before the 30th celebrations end, make sure you see that. My only worry over the next few months while it's hot is that it won't be on quite as much. I think when we went August last year, we only saw it once. I mean, it might have been on more times and we obviously weren't there at the time, but when it's too hot, they don't do the full show. So I would, if you're going in the summer, which you will be now because it's finishing in a few months, but try and maybe watch the first one of the day. And yeah, because I think if it's too hot, they definitely won't do any more after that. That's what we're going to try anyway. I'm just worried if it is too hot that we won't get to watch it at all. Because the little show that they do instead is fine, but it's not as good as the full show. So even if we just get to watch it once, I'll be happy. I mean, we did watch it quite a few times on our last trip, but because we know we'll never get to see it again, we need to watch it again. The other tip with Dream and Shine Brighter is if you want some interaction with the characters, make sure you stand either on the green line. You'll see them on the floor in front of the castle. You'll know what I mean when you're there. Stand on the green line or along somewhere where you know the characters are going to come past, because they high five, they'll cuddle you. If you watched our last vlog series, you'll see that Ava even got taken into the show kind of and got to dance with Rapunzel, which was just amazing. Yeah, the interaction is so good if you're standing in certain places and watching it all, and yeah, getting to join in with the characters. So although those tips are only for Dream and Shine Brighter, if you are watching this later on in the year, the same really goes for the Halloween parade that they do and the Christmas parade. They do a stop in front of the castle and go on the stages. Again, I mean, you might not have a problem then with it being too hot, but if it's too wet, that's too dangerous for them to do that as well, so they won't stop and they'll just do it as a parade. So again, try and watch that when you know you've got a good day. The parade is still good, but it's nice to see the little stage show as well. And I'm not sure if you get the same interaction with the characters by standing nearby. You probably would. Another little tip I can think of is water. So you don't have to buy drinks all the time. Take a water bottle or have a bottle and then fill it up. And they do have water fountains, quite a lot of them around the parks. If you go during the winter months, they do turn the outside ones off because they could freeze. So indoor ones will be open, outdoor ones won't. But you'll notice that they're always where the toilets are. The water in the toilets, out the taps, obviously, it's the same water, basically. So I have filled up using the taps before. It's cold water normally. So yeah, I've just used that and it's been absolutely fine. So you can still fill up. I know some people, me and Ava just drink water, but I know some people that don't like water take the little bottles, the little squeegee things, so you can put juice in it as well, and make a drink out of it. Saves a bit of money, it's easier, and it keeps you drinking plenty. You also can find where the water fountains are on the app, so it's just another thing, like, you know, the toilets are on there. And then the same goes for food as well. With taking, you know, you take water in, you can take your own food and snacks in. You can't go in with a big picnic basket and, you know, taking in loads of food like that. I'm assuming they would stop you as you go through, get to the gates. But yeah, you can take snacks in, no problem. Just, you know, keep costs down again. I always take snacks for Ava, not normally for myself, because I just like to have the Disney snacks. Obviously, we always want to have some Disney snacks, some Mickey shaped snacks. But for children particularly, because they like to eat all the time, don't they? And they eat when they're bored, when they're in queues. It keeps them occupied. So I usually like to make sure we've got sweets and maybe some crisps and some snacky bits in the bag for her, just to keep her happy. So you can do that. Meeting characters. So if you want to meet princesses, I personally think at Disneyland Paris the best way to meet princesses is by doing princess dining. If you queue up for the Princess Pavilion, then you're only going to get one princess and you're going to queue for a really long time. So we've never done it. We're not really too worried about doing it, but that's why I booked Princess Dining last year, so that we still got to meet them. So the Princess Pavilion and Meet Mickey is on the Disneyland Paris website as attractions rather than character meets, so they will be there. I would say as well, Meet Mickey can be quite a long queue, not as long as the Princess Pavilion, but it can be long. But it's inside, so it's in quite a nice room. When we did it last year, it said a 90-minute queue, so we said we would just do it. It ended up only being 60 minutes. Obviously, that's not to say that would happen again or to anyone else, but our experience that time, it wasn't as long as it said, but it was a really hot day and it was inside in air conditioning, which was really nice. There's cartoons on a screen in there. We also sat down because we would stay in one place for ages and then we would to suddenly move quite far. So that worked quite well because it meant we got to sit down and have a rest. So it was my favourite queue. It was the quickest hour ever, and obviously it was worth it at the end. But so I would just say don't get put off by going in there if it is a long queue, because it is quite good. And you know, take things for your kids to do and eat, and then hopefully they'll be okay as well. Other characters, most of them are listed on the app. A lot of them only come out either in the morning. I know some of I think it's Winnie the Pooh and Stitch at the moment. They're only like morning ones. They're quite popular as well. But the majority of the characters are sort of out between 10 and 3, I would say. So they're not too late. So don't leave that till late, especially with popular characters, because you will be queuing quite a while. I always think it's worth it though. And I think because it doesn't say how long it's going to be, then we just get in the queue and don't think about it. Like, we won't queue that long for rides, but you know, if you're wearing a character's t-shirt or something especially, and you feel like you need to meet them that day, then it is worth it. It's also quite fun watching them interact with everyone else, because you know, characters like Stitch or Chip and Dale or Donald, the funny ones, it's always quite funny just to watch. But again, take things to do for you maybe and the kids, and yeah, just make sure you've maybe got a snack and a drink, and you should be fine. It is, I always think it's worth it, but obviously if characters aren't your thing, then don't stand in long queues for them. You will also sometimes just see pop-up characters in the park, so these won't be listed on the app, but characters can just appear. Sometimes you will just see them walking from one place to another. It might be from their meet and greet, or if they're in the restaurant or something else, you might just see them. When you see them like that, they won't normally stop and give you an autograph or a photo, but they might say hi. It's just nice seeing them. But sometimes there are characters out. DLP Report are really good on Facebook to keep an eye on things like that. They don't report on all of them, but you might just see, you know, if a certain character is out somewhere, or you might just stumble across them, which is really nice. We met Mary Poppins and Bert on our last trip at the entrance of the studios. I've noticed recently though that they've actually been in Fantasyland. Obviously, no guarantees where they'll be or if they'll even be out, but they were out for quite a long time, and they were doing autographs and photos, and they were just kind of pointing out the children who they thought whose turn it was to go next. So yeah, so always keep a lookout for who's about. You know, you can come off a ride and just spot someone. That happened to me when I went with my friend as well. We spotted a couple of Winnie the Pooh characters, and she loves Winnie the Pooh, so that was quite a good spontaneous meet. You can also meet some of the characters in the hotels. Now, the times of these can change because most of the character meets are now in the morning for every hotel apart from Newport Bay. So obviously this is all on-site hotels. So the Marvel Hotel is the only one that you have to be staying at the hotel to see any characters there. But Newport Bay, Sequoia Lodge, Cheyenne and Santa Fe all have character meets. I think they're supposed to really be for people staying at the hotels, but anyone can go in the hotels and look around, so anyone can go and meet the characters. So you don't know who's going to be there, so it's just rock up and see who's there. But that is a good way because the queues might not be quite as long as well. Right, I think this is a really important top tip. This is for when you're there. Make sure you're wearing really comfortable shoes, and shoes that you've walked in before and you know they're comfortable. So if you're going to buy new ones, practice in them before you go, because the very first trip we had, I wore trainers that I thought were comfy because I put them on once in the shop and they felt comfy, and they were awful. I had blisters, but my feet hurt as well. I always do have problems with my feet, especially my heels. I mean, the amount of walking and standing you do, your feet are going to probably hurt no matter what you wear. But obviously, if you can just help them a little bit. I usually find for me trainers are better because they give my foot a bit more support. But I know some people like sandals, so it just depends what is best for you. I would try a few different options. The other thing I would say is take more than one pair and maybe try and alternate or switch them about a bit. That normally helps. I think wearing the same shoes every day doesn't really help. I also now take insoles as well, and last time I wore some insoles that I think really did help. Also, obviously, like, have breaks and stuff whenever you can, but sometimes you can't, not, you know, you're standing waiting for something, you're not always allowed to sit down, or you can't sit down. So yeah, sometimes you will do. I think it is the stand in for me more than the walk in that hurts. Yeah, so just make sure that you've got good shoes, a change in shoes, good socks as well. I never have any problems with blisters anymore. It's just the pain. I do also actually take this spray. It's a little spray, ibuprofen. I'm not really sure if it helps though, but you can get obviously ibuprofen gel. I have even sometimes just taken ibuprofen tablets to see, and I think it has helped because obviously it's pain, so it takes the pain away. But yeah, I'd say it's really important because you're going to be on your feet a lot. Same for the kids, but Ava says her feet hurt, but I feel like mine are worse than hers. I don't think they probably suffer with it quite as much as us, even though they might say they obviously get tired and tired legs, but maybe not so much with the pain. But again, just make sure good shoes, good socks, and switch them about. I think that is all the tips from me now. You know, when you're in the park, just enjoy it. Maybe have a sort of a rough plan. Obviously, it depends what type of person you are. You might be someone that likes to just go with the flow. You might be a complete planner, but obviously plans don't always stick, especially with children. I have sometimes planned that we're going to do the fireworks one night, and then Ava said, no, I don't want to do the fireworks. And I just said, okay, let's do it tomorrow night, and change the plan. So yeah, you have to obviously always, because things could get cancelled or moved and changed. So you just always need to be prepared for the plan not to go ahead as you planned. But I think once you're there, you're fine. You know, you go with the flow anyway. So I'm just going to pass you on to Ava now, who's going to give you some tips for the kids that might.
Hi guys, I have some kid tips. So if you have any children with you, go get them because these tips are for them. Okay, let's get started. First, number one is bring a stroller or rent. Okay, so they are like normally when you first enter the parks, and they are 25 euros per day, and a 50 euros deposit if you want to take it out of the park. Like if you were in, because you can get them in studios as well, but you wanted to go in Paris but you didn't want to pay for it again, you can pay £50 for it. But it's free. You don't have to pay for it if you have an Infinity Pass. Okay, number two. Okay, take sweets. Ask your mum or dad, whoever you're going with, ask them to take sweets because it'll just calm you down, and well, you know, you just have a little snack, so it won't fill you up, but you will have a little snack. It'll give you some energy. Number three, things to do in the queues. You could do, if you had like a little notebook or like a tiny little notebook or something, you could like have that. Or if you have like a little toy or something, and that you could play with that in the queue so you don't get bored. Okay, number 4. Watch parades. Yes. If you don't know, there's a Dream and Shine Brighter parade, and that parade is actually for adults and kids. It's suitable for any age, and it's fun to like watch, and like there's so many characters, you can high five, hug them. And you get to sing along and everything. Yeah, and there's also a few little shows like Stars on Parade. There's characters there you can wave at, or high five, and yeah. Okay, number 5. Go on Phantom Manor, Star Tours and Pirates. Okay, so they're all in the Disney park, all in the like original park, so you don't have to keep going and getting in different parks. So Pirates is in Adventureland, and Phantom Manor is like in Frontierland, and Star Tours is in Discoveryland. So if your kids want to go on those like rides, then they can. When I first went Phantom Manor, I didn't want to go on it. I didn't want to go on it. It's too scary, Mummy. I was literally like that. But I love it. It's probably one of the best rides. Well, not the best, but one of the best. And then Star Tours and Pirates, I didn't want to go on because I thought Pirates would be a bit scary. I loved it. And I thought Star Tours would be a bit like, it would make me a bit weird because it like at the back it normally like swings you around a bit. But I love it. It's 3D and yeah, it's amazing. I like those 3 rides. Number 6, meet characters in their outfit. Okay, last time we went to Disney, I dressed up as 3 characters. I dressed up as Tiana, I was going to say Aurora, Tiana, Rapunzel and Jessie, and I got to hug all 3. And actually when I met Rapunzel, you might have seen this, but I got to go on this, no, I didn't get to go on stage, but I got to go on like the road bit and join in with this little girl, and Rapunzel thought we were like siblings, but we weren't. Also, it's up to age 12 for you to dress up as like princesses and princes, whatever. You get up to age 12 because you get more like, you would get more interaction. Like you would probably like get, if you were like younger than 12, like if you were 12 or younger, you'd probably get a hug or something like I did. Yeah, but over 12, maybe just like a high five or something, or a hello. The last tip, number 7, take a toy to relax. Okay, maybe if you like, I don't know, maybe like in the room, if like you don't have electronics, if you don't use electronics, and you're a bit bored in the hotel room, you can probably like take a little toy, like a little fidget toy or something, to like relax and calm yourself down. And I feel like even when you're like waiting for the bus, you can sit on a little bench that's near and just play with it if you're waiting for the bus to the parks. Or if you're like waiting for something, like in the queue, like like tip number 3 was earlier, you could play with one as well. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say really. Okay, let's say bye. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.
So I really hope that those tips have helped you somehow. If you have any more questions, just leave a comment under this video, or feel free to message me on Instagram. It's Mummy and Mini Me. I'll pop it here, but you can message me on there. Ask me anything you want. I'll always try and help, and if I don't know the answer, I'll try and find out the answer for you. So yeah, I hope I answered everything, but if there is anything I missed or you're not sure of, something else you want to know, then just ask. So thank you so much for watching, guys. We will be back soon with our next trip to Disneyland Paris. So take care. Please do like this video if it has been helpful, and subscribe so you can see what's coming next. So take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.